Welcome to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. Today's episode starts with the simple but brutal truth. Vibe coding breaks the moment your idea gets bigger than make the button blue. Maybe that's a bit far. But every founder knows this moment, when you've stretched Lovable, Cursor, or Claude Code as far as your vibes can take you, and suddenly the whole thing collapses under the unclear prompts, messy code, and your total inability to explain what you want in the first place. Well, today's guest built that fix. I'm talking with Tyler Wells, co-founder of BrainGrid.ai, the platform powering over 2,000 AI builders and 10,000 plus ship features by turning messy human ideas into precise AI-ready specs, tasks, and prompts. If you've ever wondered how non-technical founders are suddenly shipping multi-tenant SaaS apps, or how senior engineers are spinning up 6 agents at once without imploding a repo, this is your episode. We get into how BrainGrid builds the missing planning layer of AI development, why your prompts suck and how to fix them, how founders with zero engineering background are shipping real products, and the future of anyone with an idea can actually build it software. This episode is for vibe coders, indie hackers, AI native SaaS founders, and anyone who has ever thought, wait, can I seriously build this myself? Spoiler, yes, and Tyler shows you how. And if you like learning AI through founders who are actually building, not just posting screenshots, go sign up for the newsletter at aiforfounders.co. My newsletter is where real experiments, failures, frameworks, and AI tools get shared first. If this episode fires you up, the newsletter will absolutely ruin your free time in the best possible way. And if this episode made your dopamine spike at least once, leave a review. It's the podcast equivalent of giving me +5 energy and a rare loot drop. This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster, the podcast booking agency trusted by over 800 founders and now part of Moburst, a global marketing powerhouse. Here's the truth. Podcasts are the highest leverage channel for founders in 2026. Your customers want to hear your voice, your investors want to know your story, and the market wants authenticity, not another LinkedIn carousel. Kitcaster books founders on the perfect podcast so they can tell the right story to the right audience at the right moment. No more cold pitching, no more dead-end inboxes, no more who will I talk to, just high-quality interviews that build trust, authority, and inbound demand. If you're a founder trying to grow, raise, or simply stop being invisible online, go to kitcaster.com. It's time to get booked, get heard, and get your message everywhere. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. Tyler, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Ryan, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, and I can't wait to talk about your company, BrainGrid.ai, which is, we're going to have a deep conversation about vibe coding. Before we get into it, give us a quick introduction of the LLMs you're using and kind of what capacity right now.
We use, typically I would say the two main foundational models we're using right now are Anthropic and Gemini. Those ones have provided the best output, as well as I would say the best bang for the buck. We obviously just started switching over to Gemini 3 for a number of our agents and have been very happy with what we're seeing there. But I would say pound for pound, that Anthropic, the Sonnet 4.5 is still the winner right now. But it remains to be seen if Gemini 3 is gonna edge it out.
Yeah. And then what kind of applications are you using it for? Is this for generative, writing, code? How are you using them?
So, at the heart of what BrainGrid does, it's a series of agents that we're using to predominantly the 4.5 model for those agents in BrainGrid that you're seeing. And they are writing very detailed product specifications. They're writing epics. They're taking those requirements and the analysis of your code and the understanding of your code, and they're breaking that down into actionable tasks or prompts that can be fed into things like Claude Code. And all of that is driven by those foundational models. Where we use Gemini for is for all the code analysis. So part of what BrainGrid also does in order to provide rich context and sort of ground the agent is we connect to your GitHub repository and we take that code base, feed that through Gemini, and allow it to produce 5 different types of documents like architecture, key workflows, sort of data structures, what the directory structure looks like, because obviously the foundational models know nothing about your code unless it's open source and they've happened to scan it. But the vast majority of code is probably not, and your private repos are not going to be seen by them. So you've got to provide context to those models in terms of what it is your code actually does.
100%. And to kind of tie a bow on that, from what I understand from BrainGrid, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it's kind of a graduation process of people maybe that got into some vibe coding, had some success with Lovable, had some success with Bolt, Replit, and they're ready to kind of graduate to the next level, Claude Code and tools like that. And why that kind of is helpful for me is I'm that guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm that guy. I'm on Lovable making awesome stuff, but my prompts look like, yeah, but make the button bigger, I've dabbled with Cursor, I've dabbled with Claude Code, but really it's kind of intimidating. And all of this is kind of rooted around the quality and integrity of those prompts. So really what BrainGrid is here to do is to get a level up on basically using prompting as the engineering and coding language. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great way to think about it is, we want to ensure that you're prompting like a pro. We want to give those vibe coders the planning, the structure, the building blocks that they need to build, real software with the tools that you just mentioned. How do you take somebody that does not have an engineering background and get them to explain in the proper terminology and nomenclature for what it is that is in their head, that's maybe been ruminating in their head for years, that they've never been able to build because, they couldn't afford software engineers, or they have a day job and that's not something they're able to do. But then give them those superpowers. And in order to get those agents to build what it is that they want to build, you've got to write the prompts. The prompts are key in order for this to get that idea out of your head. And what we do is we allow them to take that messy idea that's in their head, tell BrainGrid, hey, here's what I want to go build. And then we do a lot of that deep thinking, okay, and through questions and answers and either looking at your code or starting from scratch. We're going to entice what it is you're trying to build, think about the edge cases, think about the best technology, and give you those sets of prompts that you can then, that are fed into the agents for them to go and implement.
Amazing. I'm going to be real selfish here and create a case study based on my problem.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I've got a database of contacts, and the contacts have different attributes in a spreadsheet. And what I want is the user to walk through a survey, and then the responses to the survey will actually filter that database. And I've got it to a position in Lovable where it fakes it, and I really can't get it to actually use the attributes from the survey to accurately filter and give me the data on the backside. So walking into BrainGrid, how would I begin to use the tool to maybe solve my problem?
First and foremost, the thing that's going to help BrainGrid be the best or perform the best is we need access to that source code. Unfortunately, if that's just sitting in Lovable, we're not going to be able to see that. So hopefully you've connected that up to your GitHub account and you've synced that code that was written in Lovable through Lovable's agents, and you've gotten that into GitHub. If you've got that into GitHub, then you can install the BrainGrid GitHub application. So that way we can generate that rich set of documents and context that I talked about earlier. And then once you've done that, just express your intent. So when you want to build something, you express that intent in natural language in English, and we're going to help tease out that idea of what it is that you're trying to build. And we're going to give you the best technical approach that we can so that you can get to the task and actually get that thing building.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, Moburst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result? Marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At Moburst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to Moburst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together. Okay, I've got a confession. As a podcaster and founder, I'm constantly meeting incredible people, guests, listeners, or other entrepreneurs. But here's my little secret. I'm terrible at following up. My inbox is basically a graveyard of missed opportunities. Does that sound like you? You meet someone amazing, exchange emails, have great intentions, and then life happens. 6 months later, you're kicking yourself thinking, I should have stayed in touch with that person. This is exactly why I started using warmstart.ai. And honestly, it's transformed how I think about my network. Instead of letting relationships go cold, Warmstart analyzes my existing contacts and helps me identify who I should be reaching out to and why. It even writes the outreach messages for me. But here's the key. I review everything before it goes out. I'm not just talking about this because they're a sponsor. I'm talking about it because watching a healthcare executive use this to build his entire advisory board in one weekend with 4 CEO signups made me realize I was leaving money on the table every single day. Your network is your net worth, but only if you actually nurture it. Check out warmstart.ai, use code AIFF to get $50 off your first month. Stop letting your relationships turn into missed revenue. Amazing. So I'm connected to Git with my Lovable account. I'm connected to BrainGrid through Git. Now, then once I'm actually operating, am I still prompting in Lovable, or am I now prompting in BrainGrid and it's updating the Lovable code source? How does that work?
So in BrainGrid, we don't actually write the code. So we are not a coding agent. We do everything before the coding agent is actually going to start doing the implementation. So once you've gone to BrainGrid, you've created that account, you've connected your GitHub through installing that application, you will be, in our web app. And you're literally, like I said, you're typing out that intent, and then you're answering the questions. You're iterating back and forth with our agent, and then you're winding up at a requirement, or you're winding up at an epic, depending on the size of what it is you're trying to do. It's like if you go back, and I'll get to the rest of it, but if you go back to sort of like the traditional SDLC or software development lifecycle, right? You've got at the top of that is like if it's a big project, you're gonna write an epic, and the epic sort of defines like some very large body of work that you're trying to do, and you're going to break that down into requirements, and then each requirement is going to be a feature that sort of satisfies that epic, and you kind of go through all that until you're done. Then you end up with a full product or a very large feature that can't be done in a single shot. And so when you've got to the point of you express your intent in English or natural language, you've got that requirement, you've got those tasks. The best way to do it is then to hop over to something like Cursor, Claude Code, or Windsurf, whichever one is your favorite. And then, of course, my suggestion would be to either use the BrainGrid MCP or the BrainGrid CLI, and then literally give it the command of like, you tell the model or you tell Claude, you say, hey, build this requirement. And it's gonna go out to BrainGrid via the API. It's gonna pull down the requirement. It's gonna pull down all of those tasks. It's gonna ingest all of that as context. And then it's going to say, okay, you've got 5 tasks that have to be implemented. Great. Let's start with task 1. It's going to go through the entire implementation. It's going to do your testing. It's going to make sure your linting, any of the sort of, depending on what language you're writing on, make sure everything that has been written works. And then it's going to move on to the next task all the way until it's done. And then when those tasks are complete, your requirement is complete and your feature should be built and built properly.
Okay. Amazing. So basically, the step from Lovable to Claude Code seems significant to me. When I go into Claude Code, a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Is there a good tutorial or something that's going to be able to allow you to get your bearings a little bit in there? Kind of what do you recommend to kind of soothe the me pulling my hair out, looking at Claude Code, trying to figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big leap, especially for people that don't have a traditional software engineering background. And we've got a customer that was exactly that, or exactly is this. She runs Pilates studios.
Right.
She is exactly like you. She was at Lovable. She had an idea, started building it there, got frustrated by the fact that Lovable couldn't write or couldn't create what you wanted to have done. Started looking around, found us, had our first conversations and realized like, look, I can take these tasks or these prompts that they're creating in BrainGrid and feed them into Lovable, but I want a deeper level of control. I want to, get a little bit deeper into the weeds, so to speak. And, she's jumped into Cursor. I think Cursor, my standpoint, I'd probably go Claude Code first because it's hard to say. I mean, maybe not, because you kind of want that IDE at the same time to be able to visualize the code, so you can actually see what it's doing. But I think like from the vibe coder standpoint, like really what you want to be able to do is just is open up your project. You've cloned it down in Git. You open up your project in the IDE. You can see the code. And then, either connect it through the MCP, or if you want to do it the manual way, you start feeding it the implementation tasks and then just start looking at what it does. Like you really don't have, we want to make it so you don't have to do much more than that. And so by the time you've fed it all those tasks, you're not really writing anything. You're allowing the agent to go write it for you. And then depending on where you're at, and I would say sort of the, how much you've done from a testing standpoint, how much you've done from a linting standpoint. You may not have done any of that stuff, but these are all maybe foreign concepts that you're going to have to learn. But some of that stuff you can, again, turn around and ask BrainGrid, like, how do I make this safe? How do I make this testable? How do I ensure that what's being produced is going to actually work? But we want to get to the point where like a lot of that stuff just comes automatically through the prompting that we provide to you. Where the IDE maybe becomes second nature, or maybe at some point you don't even have to open up the IDE. You just essentially let BrainGrid go, and next thing you know, you've got a PR that's been completely tested and is good to go and ready to merge.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Cool. So pull code base from Lovable if you want to keep it there.
You want to sync it. Yeah. So sync it from Lovable to GitHub.
Sure.
Clone it down from GitHub. Get that on your machine locally. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Get that machine locally, open up Claude Code or open up Cursor, when you're ready. But first thing is, once you clone that down, once you've got that code base inside of a repository GitHub, go to BrainGrid, create that account, connect it, install the GitHub app, create your project, and start writing your first requirement.
Cool. And then what BrainGrid's going to do is fill in the blank spot. Yeah. So my problem is I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
If I'm coming to BrainGrid, I'm like, make Daryl Strawberry's rookie card. It's going to be like, cool, no problem. But then it creates a prompt that's going to cover all the bases. Be like, look at Donruss and Tops and Upper Deck and research all the rookie cards for Daryl Strawberry. And then it's going to fill in kind of the gaps that I don't know I'm missing. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. Like if you sit down and you're like, hey, look, I've got this web app. I can log in with a username and password, but I want to be able to log in with a Google account. I want to have social login support. You could sit there and type that into BrainGrid and say, hey, I need to be able to log in. I want my users to log in with Google. How do I do this? And it's going to come back with recommendations. It's going to come back with asking you some questions. It's going to say things like, what do you want to use? And here are some alternatives. Looking at your code base, here's what I think is the best. Are you ready for me to write the requirement? And you kind of go from there.
Login with Google is a much better use case. I don't know where Daryl Strawberry's rookie card came from.
I was going with it. I mean, I'm fine. I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe it can. Maybe the models are that good now that they can somehow conjure up a Daryl Strawberry rookie card. I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Way back to
he had a beautiful swing. I mean, maybe it's just ingrained in my brain somehow. Okay, cool. Awesome. So would you say that the majority of your clients are like me, which are like, intermediary to low intermediary, basically decent, knows where to go to find answers, put it that way, and is looking for to graduate with their project? Or is it most of your customers a little bit more senior?
No, I'd say it's a 50-50 mix right now.
Yeah.
We've definitely, we're trying to open ourselves up more to vibe coders to make it easier for them to build and create. But I would still say we've got quite a few of very senior, professional software engineers that like the structure, that understand the necessity to get these agents to perform the best. You need to provide them a lot of context in the form of requirements and well-crafted prompts. They have come to the same realization that we came to, towards the end of last year, that just sitting down with an agent and expressing minimal amount of intent for what you want to do yields, at times, explosive results to sort of say the least. Whereas when you up that level of context and, that has been grounded in your code base and give it really, really good prompts, you've now put that thing on rails and focused it, and it can create amazing software for you.
Cool. And we have a mutual friend, Matt Bernier. Shout out to Matt, friend of the show.
Yes.
Great guy, very senior, very talented
Yep.
Developer. How is he and like his team using the product?
Yeah, that's a great story, and I appreciate that the reintroduction when you sent the email, and I was very happy when I saw the last name of Matt Bernier of hey, I know that guy. We worked together at Twilio, and yeah, I would love to talk to him. So when we got on the first call, I mean, he and his team are, I mean, they're vibe coding extraordinaires, and they're deep in the ecosystem. And when he showed me what he was running to sort of achieve the same level of what we've got at BrainGrid, I was kind of blown away. He had taken some open source piece of software that was allowing him to, create tasks and sort of pseudo create requirements. I think it was like some sort of like Kanban model that he had to run himself. He had to run it locally. So that meant no one else in the rest of the team could see it or use it. He just had like all of this heavy lifting of infrastructure and pieces that he had to operate himself, just to get to the point where he could sort of manage all of the artifacts around what he wanted to use when coding with the agents. And then when we sat down and I showed him like, hey, I mean, that's amazing. I love what you've done, but man, that's a ton of work. Let me show you BrainGrid. They dropped it all and came across and they've been using us now for, I think they just hit their second month. I want to say they've created somewhere around like 50 or 60 requirements. And I mean, they've just been churning and burning there. And basically he sits down and, opens up, loads up BrainGrid, writes a requirement, has that broken down into tasks, pops over into Claude Code, uses the MCP, literally says, build this requirement. And, hopefully he's using things like work trees, which is magic because now you can spin up multiple agents at the same time and work on multiple requirements in parallel within the same code base. You wait till that's done and all your tests are passing and everything's linting nicely. And now you've just built an entire product.
Well, it's so cool. Let's talk about the inception of BrainGrid. When did you launch and how did you come up with this idea as a outcome?
Yeah. So we started this in February of this year. And the way we got here is, I think like most seasoned engineers, we started just like, how could we use this AI? And we all started with Cursor, myself and my co-founder. And we had another company that we'd started back in 21 that was, I don't know, probably on its way out, wasn't sort of hitting the venture scale we needed, but we had to lay a bunch of people off and we had to obviously keep building. And we're like, well, how can we scale this now that we've scaled down the rest of the engineering team? Well, let's try these AI tools. And it came through our own sort of trial and error and learning of how to be the most efficient and get the most out of the coding agents. And interestingly enough, this was right around the time that Cursor started launching rules. And we sort of glommed onto rules, but it's like, oh, great, we can actually constrain the agent. We can sort of put it on rails, give it some guidelines, and let's see if we can build a platform around that. And so our first iteration of what BrainGrid was a way to sort of manage and share Cursor rules out there in the world. And very quickly you realize that that is not going to be anything sustainable or a business that we want to run. You write a rule once and you really don't ever visit that thing again. And, we kind of took a step back and this is probably like the January, early February timeframe. And we're like, yeah, this is not going to work. What is the real thing here that we've learned, through the sort of trial and error and trying to get the most out of the agents. And that's what kind of brought us to BrainGrid. We're like, look, you've got to provide understanding to the agents. You've got to provide really good specifications, and you've got to break those specifications down into small, actionable tasks that can be, executed by those agents, hopefully in a single turn. You want those to be atomic. You want, I want to do this task, or maybe some tasks I can do in parallel, but you want to be able to interact with those agents to allow them to help you develop the requirements and the tasks in a manner that is going to be, give you the best opportunity to sort of single shot those and efficiently build the software that you want. And that led us to BrainGrid.
So you kind of establish what BrainGrid is. You say like, hey, this is actually going to serve a significant TAM. Did you raise a round to finance the project? How did you finance?
Yeah, we did. So we ended up raising a small pre-seed with Menlo Ventures. So Menlo Ventures out of Sand Hill somewhere in Northern California. They had a thing called Menlo Labs. And so Menlo Labs was our first investment. Just recently, they did a small follow-on, and then we've just added a couple of more investors to our pre-seed ticket here.
Incredible. Yeah. How much you raised in total?
We raised 700.
So, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, February.
It's really nice about that. Like in the old days in 2021, when we started our company after leaving Twilio, I mean, right out the gate, we raised like 4 million. Now the ticket sizes are much smaller because you just don't need the big teams and you don't need the spend like you used to. And, the fact that we're sitting at 700 right now, I'm very happy about that. That gives us a very long, a nice, decent runway to really conceptualize, really what we want BrainGrid to become and what it is today.
So cool. Seed strapping is what I think they're calling it.
Yeah.
But it's a great argument because a lot of people will talk about AI in general, about the massive expense, whether that's energy or like just the expense of AI, but like really the outcome of that in the short term is like, it's actually coming out very inexpensive. Now February 2025 is the infancy of vibe coding kind of.
Yeah.
Did you have to do a little bit of explaining to like what you were working on, or how'd that go?
Every time. I mean, every single time. And I mean, you've got to explain it over and over and over. And it's like, the typical pushback is like, oh, Claude is just going to do that. Or what are the foundational models is just going to do that? Well, I mean, the job they have already is hard enough. And, leveling up to where the vibe coders need to be and focusing heavily on the specifications. A lot of the folks that we talk to, especially from the investor standpoint, have never been operators. They've never built, they've not done a lot of coding. So from their standpoint, you kind of get a lot of blank stares at times of like, well, I don't really get why this is important, or why do you want to write these requirements? Like, can't you just, mind meld with the agent and it just goes out there and just does all this for you magically? Like, think so. Not quite. I mean, you can try that, and I'd love to see what you get coming out of that. But like here, this is a proven way to do this. This is grounded in software development principles. Yes, it may seem antiquated, and I'm sure at some point down the road that this will change. But right now, to get the best bang for your buck and the most efficient use, I think, out of the agents, like, we're applying the same type of principles that we applied to human coders, like, writing those requirements, sitting there thinking deeply about what does this look like and what do the edge cases look like. And of course, I've never seen a product manager write a requirement document like our agents can, but they're not for humans necessarily. These are to be consumed by, other AI agents. But, we're applying that model, and I think it's working really, really well.
Yeah. Well, and that's the boring part. It's like, Altman's talking about like, this is the age of the idea guy. This is the time that people have an idea, they can act. You got a Pilates studio, you want to create some software, you can do it now. But what you want to do is keep your head in the clouds and be thinking about what ifs. Actually, writing the requirements is like brutal. So having a tool that can do that, especially, there a lot of things come into play here, which is like imposter syndrome. There's like all these, oh, I can't do it. You want to be able to use the momentum of the idea, the intoxication of like what can be to propel you. And a lot of times I think you get lost in the weeds. People are working on a 20-page business plan. They're doing the requirements, all this stuff. And it's just, the thing fizzles out. It seems like this allows you to keep that spark much longer and actually go much deeper into the product much faster.
Yeah. I mean, the dopamine hit that, our customers are getting from, describing something that's been in their head for possibly years and watching that materialize in front of them on the screen. It's intoxicating, and the feedback that we get. I mean, the Pilates, the woman that runs the Pilates studios is like, look, I've had this idea forever, and I want to build this multi-tenant, Pilates studio platform that, multiple studios can come into, and they can have their own sets of videos and they can play them and their own subscribers and their own payment systems and blah, 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 blah. Like, she's like, I would have had to hire a huge team to do that. Now she's pulling it off on her own, using BrainGrid. And it's the same, it's the same story. We've got a mortgage broker, out of Michigan that had an idea for building essentially a SaaS for his mortgage business. And he's like, look, I've had this floating around in my head, and I started off with, probably Cursor or something like that. And I've discovered you guys. And he's like, I can take this thing anywhere. I mean, it's a very brave new world when you see a mortgage broker creating a requirement for semantic analysis of telephone conversations. Like,
yeah,
what? How is that in his job description on his, for his day-to-day work? Yet he feels empowered enough to take that leap of like, hey, I've read about this, or I've learned about this thing. Now I want to go see it actually in action. And all of a sudden we see those requirements, coming across, being built inside of BrainGrid, and then, the task created and him implementing it. It's incredible to see. Yeah,
it really is. And it's like dopamine hits, brave new world, Aldous Huxley. When did you know that BrainGrid was going to be kind of like a drug dealer?
I mean, when I started using it myself, I mean, not only am I building BrainGrid, I mean, I'm using it on a daily basis. I was up this morning, I guess, getting my hit at, 5 a.m. There's some services that needed to be built. And here I am, 5 a.m., telling it like, hey, look, we've got to do this, I need to do secure, storage of environment variables. It needs to be on a organizational level for each project. Let's come up with a way to do this, write the service, write the test, and it's just, I'm sitting back there just interacting with the agent, over my morning cup of coffee, and let's get this thing built. And by 6 a.m., the thing was built and shipped.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. You got some impressive stats on the website, 2,000 plus AI builders, 10,000 plus features shipped. Now we're going back to February. You raise some cash, you wrap a brand around it, you go to market. How do you go to market, and how do you get your first couple of customers? And did you use design partners in the early stages?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had a few design partners that were in there early, giving us feedback. And it was typically, we were using, people from our own network in the very beginning, getting their feedback. And then we started opening it up. We had a wait list going, obviously. And, we would sort of like pick off the marquee emails that we saw there. And like, we would target people that had the Claude Max accounts, because we're like, okay, those are serious people. Like, let's get them in. And, we would bring them into our Slack. We'd start a Slack channel with them and stay very tight with them just to get feedback. But, a lot of our customers have come in through, a single ad that we had out there. We advertised with Cursor.directory. That gets a lot of traffic, and it gets the right type of traffic for the people we're looking for. So if you're going there, you're using Cursor, or you're using some sort of one of the AI tools, and you're trying to find ways to make it better. And that's why you're there. And then they find us and they come in, they create an account, they start creating requirements, and they're sort of off to the races.
Cool. And you've got great pricing, kind of entry is kind of 10 per month, build yearly. You got a pro at 23 per month, 75 per month for team. How did you land on pricing?
I mean, that's always I don't know, it's part of it is obviously, yes, I can look at the token usage. I understand my infrastructure costs. I can sort of, stick my finger in my mouth and, wag it in the air and say, okay, like, let's come up with something. Lucky for me, my co-founder, Nico, he did a lot of that. He put that MBA to work and thought long and hard about what these things should look like. But what we had to do is, make it enticing enough that, as somebody's looking at that price and looking what they can do is like, okay, from what I get out of this, it's a couple cups of coffee. From what I get out of this is not even a meal at a nice restaurant, but I can build anything that comes to mind. And so, we want to entice people to come in and start building. Obviously the tokens don't come for free. Some people are building a ton of stuff and some people are dabbling one or two requirements a month. But I think, the pricing with this stuff is always tricky, right? It's all usage based. You're going to get some folks that are going to use it a ton and other folks that are going to just be dabblers and kind of poke around. So.
Yeah. And so you're charging usage based correctly,
Yeah.
or what
the users don't see it today. So the users today they're not seeing the actual amount of tokens that are being utilized in order to generate the requirements, break down their tasks, read their GitHub files, summarize those GitHub files, analyze their code base. They're not seeing any of that stuff. We're just giving them a blanket price today.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that will
dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It'll have to change in the future, right?
Especially with Matt out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Matt out there, with the unicorn folks and Matt, yes, it's extremely dangerous. And obviously we don't have the deep pockets like OpenAI. I think what was their loss last quarter, like 18 billion. Yeah. So, we're not losing anything like that, but obviously at some point, yes, we'll have to put some limits in there and kind of ratchet it down a little bit. So it's not just the Wild West and a free for all.
Yeah. And you mentioned lots of runway. I'm assuming you're in the black. Could I just go straight as like $10 per month per user times 2,000 to give a close approximation of MRR?
Not everybody's paying yet, so that would be nice to be there. No, I can't. I'd be lying if I said we were there right now. But we're dabbling. We're adding more users every day. But we're not. The nice thing is not the bulk of the users are not at that lower tier builder. They're coming in at the middle. That one seems to be making the most sense for them because now they've got multiple projects. Everybody starts with one project. They do the trial for 7 days, and then they realize like, shit, I can build a lot with this. Let me add some more, a few more repos and create a few more projects, and they kind of go from there.
Cool. And what's the end game when you're looking, down the road? Is this like a logical acquisition for a Cursor or Claude or something like that? Or do you guys want to stay independent and maybe acquire some new companies, new capabilities? What are you thinking is kind of the next couple of steps?
I think the most important thing for, at least from my standpoint, is I want to be able to turn anyone with an idea into a builder. And, before I start thinking about, or we start thinking about, acquisitions or, anything else like that is, what is the next thing we can add to, the vision for the platform and where do we go? So today it's, you come with the code base, you connect it, you build requirements, you create those into tasks and you let the agents go and code. The thing that we've found is everybody wants to build AI native SaaS products. Like that is what we see being built, I would say 60 to 70% of the time. And if you look at sort of the core tenets of a SaaS product and an AI native SaaS product, these things all need the same thing, right? They need multi-tenancy. They're going to need a database. They're going to need some level of authentication. They're going to need a way to easily create agents. There's obviously a whole bunch of other things, but we want to get it to the point where you come in with an idea, and from that idea, you have that base already ready to go. And so you come in and say, like, we always like to use, I want to build a workout generator. For whatever reason, a lot of people gravitate towards that when they're talking about creating an agent or something else like that. So, like, imagine you want to create an AI powered workout generator. Um, we want you to be able to come to BrainGrid, type out, describe that AI powered workout generator. We ask you a few questions, and without you ever writing a single line of code, you've got a fully functional, multi-tenant, AI powered workout generator from day one. That's customized based upon how you've answered those questions and what it is we teased out of you from what's in your head. And we've gotten that intent that's been floating around there for the last 10 years and pulled it out of you, turned it into the requirements and the tasks. And without you ever even going into Claude Code or anything else like that, you've got it there and working.
First thing it says is burpees, and then you just burn it. You're like, nah, man, I'm not doing burpees, man.
No freaking burpees, man. Those are miserable. But yeah, it's like, no, but it's like, because we, like, when we see people, like, there's no differentiation in creating a multi-tenant product. There's no differentiation in the auth. There's no, the differentiation is what comes from your head and your ability to execute that idea and get it out to the market and let people use it.
Man, I'm getting so excited. I'm getting fired up.
Yeah. That's all right. That's the horizon. That's sort of the, that's our vision. That's where we want to take this thing. So
love it. Love it. Warning, we're entering the lightning round now, just to let you know. You're obviously very bullish for vibe coding. What's the bear argument against vibe coding?
That this whole thing's just going to collapse and fall down and no one's going to be able to ever run any of this stuff. And it's going to be a spaghetti shit show of code that can never be maintained or iterated on or built on top of, and it will just all fizzle out.
And the vibe code haters are very loud and snobby, I would say.
Of course, because there is a contingent of people out there that are like, look, I went to school for 4 years or 6 years. I've got 15 years of experience. There's no way somebody that runs a flower shop should ever be creating a multi-tenant AI-powered SaaS app because they don't have the credentials. I think AI is changing all of that and making it a reality. There are plenty of people that don't want to see this succeed. All the AI, all the code that's produced is total trash. I don't believe that. And it's you can never run that. It's never going to be safe. It's never going to be testable. I mean, whatever argument you want to put in place, take a step back before AI. Think about all the work that went into, enterprise software company or startup software company. Think of all the time spent and effort around testing procedures, on code styles, on you name it, on all the safeguards that we had to put in there to protect our users from our software engineers. Well, it's the same thing in this world too. Like you can't just unleash vibe coding software out in the wild and expect it to behave perfectly and amazing. You still need to do all of the proper software engineering techniques and procedures, to ensure that what's going out there is actually going to work. Maybe that'll change someday and it'll become so good that it's self-correcting and rewrites itself and does all these things. But today's world with AI, like, you still have to do all of that same stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, instead of the humans writing it, now the agents are. And instead of it being one human writing it or one agent, I've got 6 agents writing this stuff at the same time. And I'm sure somebody's going to listen to this like, you got 6 agents writing slop. Well, maybe not. I've seen plenty of human slop come out of, very good software engineering houses as well. So
it's kind of like when your kid's teacher is writing you an email about they don't want they don't want the kids using LLMs to help with their writing, and their email is so flawed that you're like, dude, you should actually be using LLMs.
It's like, have you heard of Grammarly?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if you use it next time you send me an email, right?
But they're threatened and they're scared, and they should be, for sure. What would you say to soothe their fears? What should they be thinking about to maybe protect themselves a little bit of the incoming florists?
Fucking embrace it. Become a master. Let it become your disciple. Like, treat it as if you are like controlling a horde of senior software engineers that you want to do your bidding and you want them to behave in the manner in which you would like them to write code. Give them all the style guides, tweak your biome and your ESLint to whatever degree you want to ensure that that TypeScript code is beautiful and and meets your standards, and then turn them loose, because it's you're sort of like unburdening yourself with the syntactical, not necessarily nightmare, but the syntactical burden of implementation. Now you can take a step up and really think deeply about what it is that you want to build and how it needs to be built. You don't have to just go hands off and hands off the wheel and just let it go. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love working with my own product, is because the ideas and the intent and how I want it done can flow out, into BrainGrid, and I can read its output. And I can sit there and do the exact same thing as if a human had done it, 2 years ago. And I can be like, no, I don't like that. That decision right there is a bad decision. That's never going to scale. Fix it, change it. And of course, it's going to be, the model's going to be very polite. It's going to be like, oh, you're right. You're so brilliant. Let me fix that for you. And thank you for pointing that out. But, sometimes I don't know why it does that. But anyways, like, you can have this discussion, at a completely different level now. And then once you've gotten it to the point, it's like, you're still putting in all the same things as if you're writing it yourself, except for you don't have to burden yourself with that syntax anymore. And now you can spin up 5 or 6 of those things at the same time and let that thing churn and burn. And then you take the step back and it's like, let me go review that code. Okay, that PR's done. Let me review that. I don't like it. Well, how often when humans were reviewing other humans' code, do they look at that and be like, man, that's garbage. I don't like that. Fix it. Yeah. All the time. It's constant, and then it's like you get in the humans get in these massive political discussions over variable naming and all this other crap. Well, guess what? That doesn't happen anymore because the AI agent doesn't give a shit. You want it to be camel case, you want it to be Pascal case, just tell it. And it's going to look exactly how you want it. But embrace it. Like, this is the world that we are going to be in. So I think embrace it fully and become a Jedi master at this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if the tension is like similar to maybe like a musical tension. So if you want to go study music, there's kind of 2 paths. You can go to the orchestra and they put the charts in front of you and you play how it's written. You can go study jazz and you learn how to improvise. Now, as founders, I feel like we're all kind of jazz musicians. We want to improvise. We have an idea. We want to express ourselves, perhaps it's the orchestra that's like, hey, actually, I like the comfort of the structure. And that's what is feeling threatening to them, because now they're going to have to open up. They're going to have to use, the other side of their brain, in order to get done what they need to get done.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I like the analogy of being jazz musicians. It's like, you've got to improvise all the time, especially as a founder, because you know what, if there was a roadmap to being a successful founder, trust me, we would all be doing it, right? We'd all be following that path, but that's just not the case. There's a lot of improvisation and a lot of learning and a lot of failure. Actually, unfortunately, a ton of failure. And you've got to learn from it, pick yourself back up and go battle again.
Totally. Okay. So as founders, we're jazz musicians and dopamine addicts, naturally. So maybe you can help us with shiny object syndrome. So, which is to say that, how do you stay focused working on BrainGrid and not just using BrainGrid to make 1,000 different projects at the same time?
Because I love my own dopamine hit from not only obviously using BrainGrid, implementing BrainGrid, but watching what my customers are doing, watching my customers succeed with BrainGrid.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me locked in. I mean, every time I see some crazy idea come across that somebody is building and implementing and then maybe giving us feedback about like, holy shit, I couldn't believe I built this. Like, I had no idea how I was going to do this. And like, I was able to do something I never thought was possible. Like, that's why I get up in the morning. That's what keeps them going with BrainGrid. Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah. Are there other things that I want to build? Like, yeah, when I was learning more about coding with AI, I built my kids a math tutor for as they were learning something called Singapore math. I mean, didn't know what the hell that stuff was, and it very different than the way I learned math. So I'm like, well, guess what? AI is pretty good at this, so let it teach them. And I did at one point build a workout generator as I was learning my own path of figuring out how to be efficient with AI. And there's, a number of other little things that I've done here and there. But this, has 1,000% my attention. And I want to see people be successful with their ideas.
Amazing. My daughter's a freshman in college. Shout out. She listens to the podcast. Big fan of the podcast. What should she be studying?
How to think, critically think. AI is not going to take that away. It's not going to ever think for it. Well, I shouldn't say ever. It's not going to think for us today. You need to question. You need to be able to think. You need to be able to, understand the things in your world that, when AI is presenting it to you, you have two choices. You can just be like, okay, fine. That's, internet said it. It must be true. Or you can look at it and be like, I don't know about that. I'm not so sure. You also need to think because, again, when something is in your head, it's not like AI can reach in there and pull that out and say like, oh, you're thinking that over in this part of the brain. I know exactly what you want. Let me go do that for you. You have to be able to describe it still. Maybe you can use less words to describe it than you would need to in the past, or describing it to a human, but you still need to be able to articulate it, what it is that you want these models to do for you. And so I think that, learn to think, be a great thinker. If you're going the college route, otherwise trades are a great place too. AI is not going to replace plumbers, electricians, carpenters, or any of that other stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that can be done over there too. But, I think just be a great thinker and understand what those tools are. Like if you just use the tools to do your work for you, you're not going to get any benefit. But if you use those tools to help you research better, to research more efficiently, to learn better, I think you're doing it the right way.
My daughter's very entrepreneurial. So if you're listening, sweet baby, it sounds like workout generator, no burpees, sell it to your college friends. It's on fire. We're good.
Yes. Well, the thing that we found that everybody wants to do when they're doing the workout generator is tell us all about the equipment you have in your garage so we can tailor the workout to what it is you have in your garage. Because I guess after the COVID times, right, or during the COVID times when everybody was at home locked up and couldn't go to the gym, a lot of companies supplemented that gym membership by giving them cash to fill out their home, to fill up their home gym. So a lot of home gym people now. So like Bro went crazy and sold tons of squat racks and whatever else. So.
Oh, I know I got some kettlebells gathering lots of dust out there.
Right next to the rowing machine, right?
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. And speaking of college, we want to give a shout out to the Guardian Scholars. Yes. You mind give us a quick introduction to the Guardian Scholars?
Yeah, the Guardian Scholars was started by Ron Davis, and Ron Davis was the former CEO of Perrier Group, which was bought by Nestle. He was very philanthropic, had done very well. He got to a point where he was tired of just writing a check and really wanted to start something that he was deeply involved in and deeply cared about. So he put those efforts into the Guardian Scholars. And the Guardian Scholars focus on youth that have been in foster care. Guardian Scholars provides scholarships. It was started first at Cal State Fullerton. My wife actually was the very first Guardian Scholar. You can look online, it has gone on. There have been multiple chapters started all over the country. I don't remember the numbers, but it's pretty big. I know Ron has most recently started another one at Colorado Mesa, where he spent a lot of his time. The business school that he named is up there, and he is very deeply ingrained in that community, helping foster youth and helping them realize that dream of getting a college education.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And if people want to check it out, we'll put a link in the liner notes for Colorado Mesa University. Shout out to them, just down I-70, best peaches in the world down there. It's supportingcmu.org where you can learn information. Tyler, this has been absolutely incredible. Your website is BrainGrid.ai. Those will be in the show notes. It'll also be in the resource page under Vibe Coding at aiforfounders.co. What's the best place for people to connect with you online?
I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, Tyler Wells with BrainGrid. I'm on, I always want to say Twitter, but X now. It's Tyler S. Wells. I know Tyler Wells on Twitter. Yeah, I don't do a ton of social stuff. I'm pretty busy building, but I can always be found on LinkedIn. I can always be, I'll pop into X here and there. So I'm around those things. But find us at BrainGrid, and that's the place to go. We do have a public Slack channel, so you sign up, we can share that with people, and they can come in and we can chat all about how to get the most out of your coding agents.
Amazing. Tyler, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. It was great being here. Thank you, Ryan.
Hey, founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.